The TARDIS has arrived on a far distant and seemingly idyllic world. Yet the Doctor, Stephen, and Dodo learn it hides a terrible secret. The apparently civilized elders maintain their advanced society by draining and transferring to themselves the life force of defenseless savages. Outraged at this exploitation, the Doctor is seemingly helpless to prevent it when some of his own life force is tapped by the elders' leader. In the process, however, the leader, Yano, also acquires some of the Doctor's attitudes and conscience. Turning against his own people, he enlists the savages to destroy the Elder's transference laboratory, a task with which the time travelers gladly assist. Stephen agrees to remain behind on the planet to become the leader of the newly united Elders and savages. Welcome, friends and companions. How are you today? Sci-Fi and fantasy fans meet on this channel for fun chats about their beloved books, movies, series, and franchises. We also talk about food and drinks, music and sport, and a special place on the channel for Doctor Who. Random, because we'll discuss everything that involves entertainment, including movies and series, books, and music. Random, because we'll broadcast non-fixed times, actually many different times. You need to subscribe to this channel to know what time the broadcast is. Random also, because we'll have no guests or different guests. It depends on what you join me in a live stream or panel. If you want to join me in a live stream, feel free to contact me via Discord on YouTube and we'll look what is possible. You can put a comment on one of the YouTube videos or you can visit and meet me in Discord server and we'll look what is possible. And also is possible is to invite me for your channel. Feel free to invite me for your channel for our live stream and panel to talk about the things you're interested in. Yes, I want to meet you. So the Discord server is called Ren Entertainment Channel Attack Doctor Who. On this board, you find me very quick because the server bumped server regularly. So cheers, mate, and have lots of fun. This is your host, Enigmatic Joker. Today we have a first Doctor story. Yes, yes, William Hartnell, and it's called The Savages. So, okay. First, some general info. Okay. So, general info. So, the Savages, initially introduced as Doctor Who and the Savages, by the next episode, captioned at the end of the previous adventure, the Gunfighters was the ninth and penultimate serial of season 3 of Doctor Who. It was a final regular appearance of Peter Purvis as Stephen Taylor. It was the first to be wholly commissioned and produced by producer Ines Lloyd and script editor Gary Davis. It follows several serials which bore the duo's names, but had actually been substantially pre-produced by their predecessors John Wiles and Donald Tosh. It heralded the new production era in a couple of small but significant ways. It was the first story to use an overall on-screen title as opposed to being comprised of episodes with individual titles. It was also the first story to have a serial production code of more than a single character. More significantly, it was new production team's first opportunity to impact the casting of the regulars, including Purvis' departure. It was also Jackie Lane's last full serial and the final televised off-Earth story for the first Doctor, and William Hartnell showed a regenerative wariness and was eased out of the series in 12 episodes. It therefore had a certain commonality with Warrior's Gate and the resurrection of the Daleks, as the point at which an incarnation of the Doctor began to lose long-term companions before an impending regeneration. So, Warriors Gate is a fourth Doctor story. Tom Baker with K9, Mark II, Romana the Second, and Edric. And Resurrections of the Daleks is fifth Doctor story with Tegan, Jovanka, and Turlo. So, the end of this story also marked the first time since an unearthly child, the first Doctor journeyed with just a single female companion. Narratively, therefore, the end of the Savages was an important point for writers in other media. Several books featured the Dr. Dodo team in the wake of the Savages, such as the novel The Man in the Velvet Mask. So currently, all 4 episodes are missing from the BBC archives. So that is some general info. We now dive into the plot. So there are 4 episodes of this story. And all I already was saying is that we have no individual titles anymore for the episodes in the story. So it is episode 1. Okay, episode 1. The Doctor is exploring the bleak scrubland outside the TARDIS on this new Vista. He takes with him an instrument with which he is investigating his surroundings. Stephen is concerned at the length of the Doctor's absence, but Dodo dismisses his worries. Dodo and Stephen argue, which causes Stephen to go off a search for the Doctor. The Doctor is being watched as he tells himself his friends will be in for a surprise. He hears Stephen calling for him, but ignores it tacitly. Back at the TARDIS, Dodo suspects she's being watched. Unseen behind her, a group of primitive-looking men are observing her. Eventually, she spots a man in animal skins with an axe approaching her. She screams, bringing Stephen back and causing the men to scrabble out of sight. Stephen surmises that they must be well in the past, and the Doctor must be mistaken. The Doctor is certain where he is. As he continues to walk, 2 hiding savages, Cal and Thor, discuss this new creature. He is not of their people, but he doesn't carry a light gun. They decide to kill him. Doctor calls out to wherever is hiding, saying he means no harm. To his surprise, 2 other figures are alerted by his presence. 2 soldiers, Captain Edel and Exors. They welcome the traveler from beyond time, as they call him. They explain that he has been expected for many years. They are disturbed to find him carrying what they think is a weapon, but the Doctor corrects them, showing them his reacting vibrator, which is a scientific instrument. The pair seem surprised that the Doctor has companions, as they were not expecting anyone to be traveling with him. They insist he accompany Edel to the elders of their city. Exors is instructed to find and bring Doctor's friends. Stephen, still on bad terms with Dodo, accuses her of imagining the men. As he says this, a spear is thrown at Stephen and Dodo. As more savages appear and attack, they make a dash back to the TARDIS. They are met by Exors, who welcomes the traveler's companions, at which point the onslaught halts. He accompanies them to the city to be reunited with the Doctor. The Doctor is met by the elders leader, Yano, and his counselors, who greet him like an old friend. Jana shows how they have started the doctor's voyages and tells him they wish to bestow upon him the office of a high elder. He is offered robes of office and they exchange compliments. Stephen and Dodo arrive and are welcomed and presented with gifts. Stephen, an ornate dagger, and Dodo, a jewel studded mirror. As Stephen and Dodo are led off on a tour, Jano has many questions for their honored guest. Idal, suspicious of these new arrivals, begins patrol with the Exors. Carl sends a young girl, Nanina, to the caves to warn their people the hunt has begun. Stephen and Dodo are accompanied by Avon and Flower, who guide them through the city. The whole of the city is artificial. They explain to the travelers that, though they never go outside and have no concept of real things, they are allowed to develop and become what is best for each person. However, Flower expresses some regrets with regards to not being allowed to know how the city is run. Nanina runs into Exors. She hides but is finally caught by the soldier. He fires his light gun, which seems to imprison and control her. He directs her out and leads her away. Cal appears and offers himself in her place, but is ignored. The doctor questions the elders on how they have become such an advanced society. Yano explains they have learned to tap life's vital force and transfer their energy directly into themselves. Energy, explains Yano, can be transferred directly to a member of their community when needed using a process he described as animal vitality. On the outskirts of the city, Nanina is being directed further into the buildings. As their tour continues, Stephen gets more and more impressed with how the city is run, but Dodo is skeptical. She asks about the savages and is all but ignored by her tour guides. She's also blocked from going down a certain corridor in the city. Loitering behind, Dodo sees Nanina being led into a diamond-shaped entrance and tells Stephen. She wants to go off on her own, but Stephen keeps her with the tour. Santa, a scientist, is in charge of the energy transfer process, is just finishing one when Oxors arrives. He releases a savage from the lab, and the half-conscious man is led down an exit corridor. Santa and Exors engage in conversation about their new guests. Toto slips away from the tour through a door that she sees Exors using on his exit. She comes across the savage Santa was draining, wide-eyed and stumbling, and his arms reach out towards her. End of episode 1. Episode 2. The savage drags himself past Dodo. A door at the end of the corridor opens, but he collapses. Dodo helps the savage outside. Cal and Thor are outside the door waiting. Dodo is shocked by the appearance of the man and goes back inside as the door closes. In the laboratory, Nanina is being connected by Santa and his assistants for energy transfer. They ignore her cries and pleas. Dodo listens from outside. They put Nanina in a glass cubicle which fills with a gas that extracts her vitality. Santa refers to this process as vaporization. Stephen, Aiden, and Flower continue to search for Dodo. Stephen runs to find the doctor, but the doctor and Jano assure him that nothing could happen to her inside the city. Stephen is unsure and continues to search. Following the sounds of machinery, Dodo enters the laboratory and is detained by the scientists who believe she must be there for transference. Edel has joined Stephen's search. Stephen wants to search down the corridor where the laboratory is located, but Edel prevents him. Edel goes himself. Dodo fights back, surprising the scientists, and threatens to smash some of the vital equipment in the laboratory if they don't back off. Santa is called to deal with Dodo. They realize that she's one of the travelers, and Edel arrives to escort her out of the laboratory. Meanwhile, the scientists have forgotten about her, almost killing her. She is released in just the same way as the previous savage. Stephen and Dodo are reunited. Dodo is curious as to what was happening in laboratory, but is knocked back by Edel, who says they must be taken to the elders. Avon and Flower are told to wait for the guards, as they will have to answer to the elders for the negligence in allowing Dodo to wander off. Avon tries to take the blame so as to protect Flower. Edel then escorts Stephen and Dodo away. Avon and Flower are left and try to reassure each other about their faith. Soon, a guard arrives and uses his light gun on them. Dodo and Stephen are reunited with the doctor, who shrugs off Dodo's inquiries as to the vaporization process. Doctor offers to show Jano files about his time travels, and all the three travelers return to the TARDIS. Ido reports to Jano, who is very concerned as to what Dodo has seen, and also says he is concerned about the doctor. Jano orders Ido to follow the doctor. Once alone, the doctor confides he doesn't trust the elders, hence why he didn't listen to Dodo whilst they were present with him. The three of them come across the man Dodo met in the lab, and the doctor realizes that the savages are the source of the elders' power. Stephen and Dodo return to the TARDIS to fetch medicine for the savage, whilst the doctor remains to care for him. Ido interrupts this and roughly orders the savage away, revealing his contempt for them. The doctor angrily insists that he leave the dazed man alone. Ido uses his light gun to force the doctor to return to the city. Stephen returns with the medicine for which the doctor asked, but is nowhere to be found. So the capsules contained within the container are given to the savage, and he begins to recover. A group of savages watch and approach, spears ready. Thor, thinking that Stephen and Dodo are from the city, wants to attack, but Carl warns against that. As they get closer, Thor calls for the attack, and the savages break out of the undergrowth. Hilda, the injured savage, stops the party from harming Stephen and Dodo, explaining that they were caring for him. He also tells them that the doctor was taken to the city. The doctor confronts the elders and condemns them as a threat to common humanity. Yano says the doctor is standing in the way of human progress, and all progress is based on exploitation. The doctor calls it protract, protracted murder and compares them to the Daleks. The doctor is given over to Senta. In the outside world, Stephen and Dodo try to incite the savages into an uprising, but Carl explains that this is futile due to the light guns. He also informs Stephen and Dodo that the doctor will be vaporized, just like they were. Ido leads the doctor to the laboratory and introduces him to Senta. He tells Senta that the doctor is to be his next victim. Senta is unsure and warns it has never been tried on a higher form of life. Jano enters and orders Senta to proceed. Doctor tries to force his way past Ido, but is captured by Ido's light gun, strapped to a gurney, and wheeled into a cubicle. The experiment begins, but the reading appears too high. Santa and his assistants begin to worry, and Santa is on the verge of calling off the experiment. But it soon begins to be extracted in mammoth proportions. Santa announces that this is their greatest success as the assistants continue to call off the readings. Santa looks to the cubicle and sees the doctor lying motionless on the gurney. End of episode 2. Episode 3. Jano is highly pleased with the success of the experiment and realizes that the other time travelers will make excellent sources as well. Idel is ordered to find and bring back Stephen and Dodo. Carl and the savage decide to protect two strangers, as they have heard the guards are hunting them. They warn Stephen and Dodo that the doctor will never be the same again as the transference procedure. Back at the laboratory, Jenna orders the transference of the doctor's energy into himself. Santa tries to talk him out of it, but Giano frames it as an act of personal bravery and scientific exploration. The savages have heard that Exors is near and are left with only one possibility: to enter the caves, an area that even the guards are too scared to enter. Thor is concerned that this will provoke the guards into entering their only remaining place of safety, but is overruled by Carl. Inside the caves, Nanina is recovering. Stephen and Dodo marvel at the beauty of the carving and painting on the cave walls, and Carl laments that most of their talents have been taken from them by the process of transference. Exors arrives at the caves and orders the strangers outside. Carl takes Stephen and Dodo to hide inside the many passages of the cave. Though there is no other way out, Exors will have to find them. The guard reluctantly enters the cave and threatens Nanina and Wilda, and eventually forces one of the savages to tell him which way the strangers have gone. As Exors moves down the passage, he hears the footsteps of his victims ahead of him. Stephen attempts to provoke Exors into rash actions through name calling. He also asks Carl how light gun works. Carl explains that it is a liquid light beam that controls you when it comes into contact with your eyes. Stephen asks if it is capable of being reflected. When he receives an answer in the affirmative, he stops their fleeing and hides. As X sorts rounds the corner and fires at them, Stephen uses the mirror that Dodo was given by Yano to fire the beam back, forcing him under Stephen's control. As he leads X-Source back into the main section of the cave, he's praised as a god by the savages. In the city, the doctor is led to the guest apartment to recover. A secret Santa performs the transference on Jano. In the cave, companions and savages plan what to do next. Thor suggests that they kill Exors as revenge, but Carl overrules him. Carl hands all decision-making power over to Stephen. Stephen plans to use his light gun to get into the city and ask Carl to show them a way in. Thor and Nina stay to guard Exors. As soon as Stephen, Dodo, and Carl leave, Thor tries to kill Exors. Nina prevents it. Exors is grateful. Stephen captures and disables the lone guard outside the city by firing the light gun directly into his eyes. Carl opens the door. Stephen and Dodo go inside, whilst Carl hides the body. The transference is complete. Jano does not respond to Santa immediately, but when Jano emerges from the transference, he's rather a different man. He has taken on some of the personality of the doctor. Jano alternates between sounding like himself and a doctor. He also slips into believing he's actually the doctor, referring to Dodo and Stephen as his young friends, and not knowing this is his home planet. He has to stop himself from damaging the equipment. Idel and Santa have spotted Stephen and Dodo on the scanner. Idel decides to set a trap for them, planning to leave the doctor in one of the corridors for them to find. Stephen and Dodo find the doctor, but the doctor does not speak and doesn't seem to notice them. Suddenly, the door behind begins to close, but Stephen catches hold of it. Dodo helps him keep it open, and they both yell for the doctor to go through. However, the doctor makes no effort to move. Stephen and Dodo finally collapse, and the doctor slams shut behind them. Idel has a guest released in the corridor. He orders a group of guards to the corridor and instructs them to use the gas as a cover from the light gun. Dodo spots a figure through the smoke. Stephen fires at it, but the light's gun beam fails to penetrate the gas. Stephen and Dodo begin to hammer on the door, but both of them begin to cough as the two ghost masked guards emerge from the smoke. Stephen is still frantically beating on the door as the gas begins to weaken Dodo. Despite all these events, the doctor has not moved. A cloud of gas begins to swirl around them as Stephen frantically tries to open the door. End of episode 3. Episode 4. Idol emerges from the smoke and commands Stephen and Dodo give up their light guns. Dodo does so, but Stephen resists. Jano witnesses troubles of his friends via a video screen and opens the doors while Stephen still has his light gun. Dodo escapes with the doctor while Stephen tries to disarm Idol. Idol doubles back and discovers Jano at the security controls and accuses him of aiding the fugitives. Jano denies having released the strangers and orders that he will lead the patrol to find them. Carl seems shocked when the doctor and his companions make it out of the city. He helps Dodo carry the doctor to the caves. Stephen remains behind to hold off the patrol. Jano splits up the patrol, intending to go on alone to the Valley of Caves, whilst the rest of the guards go to the TARDIS. Bill is suspicious of Jano and goes with him. Stephen engages Jano and Adol in gunfight, more to stall them than to cause any harm. As Carl, Dodo, and the doctor reach the caves, Carl is surprised to find no one guarding the entrance. In the caves, Nanina fights to protect Exors from Thor, who is inciting the savages to turn against him. Nanina even goes so far as to say she will fight to save Exors' life. So this is interrupted by the arrival of Kyle, Dodo, and the doctor. Stephen is pursued by the Adol and Jano, who are catching up with them. Jano lines his gun up to shoot him, but is unable to. Stephen escapes into the caves, as Jano and Adol wait outside. Doctors give him the same capsules he gave to Wilda. Stephen, at the mouth of the cave, lines up a shot to strike Jano, but the doctor recovers suddenly and orders that Jano is not to be harmed. Dodo is overjoyed that the doctor is better, as they can escape to the TARDIS, but the doctor announces that he has decided they must destroy the source of the Elder's power, the Transfer Laboratory, and hopes they already have a friend on the inside who will help them and tells them to expect a visitor come nightfall. Jano orders Adel and his guards to return to the city. He will bring back the doctor and his companions. Adel agrees, but under protest. Adel returns to the city and reports to Senta and the elders that he believes Jano has changed and that they are betrayed. Jano meets the doctor in the caves, and the savages are terrified at his presence. The doctor knows it is safe, and Cal tells his people to trust the doctor. The doctor tells Jano that he knew Jano would take the transference himself, and as well as receiving the doctor's intellect, he has also received a sense of conscience. Jano admits that he has grown aware of the evil that he has done and is determined to end it by signing with the savages. During this conversation, Exors frees himself and escapes. And Nina follows and tries to reason with him, saying he owes her his life, but he leaves her. Jano and the savages march to the city, accompanied by the doctor, Stephen, and Dodo. At the city, Santa tells the elders about the secret in transference, and Edel takes command. Exors reports back to the city. However, affected by what Nanina has said, he informs that he has not seen Jano. Edel is skeptical of this and sends Exors to the interrogators. When Exors says that he cannot do this, Edel explains he is the leader now. Jano is gone. At this moment, Jano triumphantly enters the laboratory with his prisoners and has Edel removed. Seeing the door, she asks Santa to destroy his equipment. Santa protests, arguing that the savages are not capable of the development that our people have achieved. Jano says the savages are their equals and that he must right the wrong inflicted upon them. With Edel and the guards locked outside, Santa is powerless as Jano, Dr. Stephen and Dodo, Cal, Thor, Nanina, and even X-Horse destroys the laboratory equipment with their bare hands. Amongst the chaos, Jano and Cal agree they need to work together in the future. Edel breaks in and threatens to kill the doctor and Stephen and calls for the arrest of Jano. Jano provokes Edel, who goes to shoot him. However, Stephen responds too quickly and shoots Edel using Exorcist's light gun. In the aftermath, Jano asks the doctor to be a mediator to help during the early days of this new community when mistrust will still be present. The doctor refuses, but Carl knows the leader he wants. Stephen! Jano agrees, but Stephen is very reluctant to leave the doctor and Dodo, with both sides asking for his guidance and the doctor beaming with pride. Stephen accepts. Dodo runs over, crying to hug him. Jano and Carl leave Stephen to say goodbye. The doctor tells Stephen he's very proud of him. Stephen thanks the doctor for all he has done for him. He does say he's a little uncertain as to whether he can do it. He meekly waves goodbye to the doctor and then saddened Dodo and disappears through the door. Not long afterwards, the TARDIS dematerializes from the planet with one less companion on board. And that, my friends and companions, is the end of the story. The Savages. I will name some cast members. The Doctor Who is played by William Hartnell. Stephen Taylor is played by Peter Purvis. Dodo Sheplet is played by Jackie Lane. Carl is played by Ewan Solon. Thor is played by Patrick Godfrey. Captain Edel is played by Peter Thomas. Exor is played by Geoffrey Frederick. Jano is played by Frederick Jaeger. Avon is played by Robert Sidaway. Flower is played by Kay Patrick. Nanina is played by Claire Jenkins. Santa is played by Norman Henry. Hill is played by Edward Caddick. First assistant is played by Andrew Lodge. The second assistant is played by Christopher Denham. Third assistant is played by Tony Holland. The Savage is played by John Dillon. And the guard is played by Tim Goodman. Some world building in the story. Two things. The Doctor uses a portable reacting vibrator for calculations, mistaken for a weapon. And second thing in world building is that in the TARDIS emergency cabinet, there are capsules marked D403, able to restore life force in the victims of the Elders. Some story notes. This story had the working title of The White Savages. Second thing is that no episodes of this four-part story exist in the BBC archives. Third thing, this is the first Doctor Who story to have an overall story title rather than each episode having individual titles. A fourth thing is that William Hartnell struggled to remember his lines, so he was effectively given a respite for episode 3, where the Doctor had no dialogue. Hartnell instead worked with Frederick Jaeger to incorporate Doctor's mannerisms into Jano's personality. Another thing is that a regular viewer of the show, Ian Stewart Black, thought that the Doctor Who credit would impress his children. Another thing, for a time it was thought that this serial might replace The Gunfighters, which neither Ines Lloyd nor Gary Davis liked. Another note is that this is the first incomplete serial since The Crusade to have a full set of telesnaps and begins a long run of stories with telesnaps that it ultimately ends with the Mind Robber or The Wheel in Space if one only includes incomplete serials. This is because Ines Lloyd was a lot more keen on employing John Cura's services than his predecessor, John Wiles, was, and Peter Bryant was much the same as Lloyd after he took over as producer. Another thing is that the advanced race was originally supposed to be played by actors in blackface as a parable about apartheid era South Africa. This got dropped except for the city's leader, Jano. Another thing is that it is the first Doctor Who story to feature no on-screen deaths of any additional cast members. Although The Edge of Destruction was the first story to feature no deaths, it also had no additional cast members apart from the Doctor and his companions. Another thing is that Christopher Barry was impressed with the script, thinking that the series had become stale. Another thing is that William Hartnell was furious at Peter Purves' departure, as the two had become good friends, while Purves didn't leave by his own accord. His contract was simply not renewed. Another thing that Ian Sohn spent 3 hours in makeup so he could be made up to play one of the savages. Unusually, first eight scenes of the episode 4 were recorded immediately after part 3 was completed. This ensured that the dry eyes used to represent the gas attack on Stephen and Dodo would not have to be used a second time. Another thing is that although Peter Purves was ready to move on from the series, he pitched an idea for a sequel to this story where the Doctor returns to the planet of the Elders in the 70s, only to discover that Stephen's leadership has become thoroughly corrupt. And the last thing is that William Hartnell was upset at Peter Purves' departure as he had returned to the location shoot for the War Machines, where it failed to get on with Michael Crace and Anneke Wills. That were some sorry notes, then some continuity. Four things. The Doctor experiences an energy drain here after already experiencing advancing aging. The V story Dalek's master plan, having a remnant of Varden clinging to his body while draining his energy. That's audio story The Locked Room, and over exertion while fighting the Toymaker. There's a TV story The Celestial Toymaker, and will soon experience a second life force depletion before his first regeneration in TV story The 10th Planet. Second thing in continuity, on the planet that he chose as his new home, Stephen became king and had 3 daughters. His youngest, Dodo, was his favorite. He was eventually deposed by his other daughters. He also had a granddaughter named Ishida. That's an audio story, The War to End All Wars. A third thing is that when Stephen is close to 100 years of age, it is revealed that he is in the same time zone as the Doctor is when he's fighting the Cybermen in December 1986. Considering Stephen's apparent age, he would likely place this story sometime in the early 20th century. Although this does contradict the Doctor's initial assessment of the TARDIS landing in the far future, such mistakes are hardly uncommon, especially for the first Doctor. This may also explain why the Doctor misjudged how peaceful and prosperous that this world truly was. It's a link to audio story The Locked Room. And the last thing in continuity, the Ninth Doctor will also defeat a plot involving life energies being drained from the perceived lower classes to benefit the self-identified upper classes. He also defeats this plot by tricking his enemy into talking on some of his own morality by provoking them into trying to absorb too much of the Doctor's own life force. And there's a link to audio story Retail Therapy. So that, my friends and companions, is all I have to say about this story. Um, so some commercial. Um, Sci-Fi Fantasy Fans News channel for fun chats about their beloved books, movies, series, and franchises. We also talk about food and drinks, music and sport, and a special place on this channel for Doctor Who, my most beloved sci-fi theory. This channel has multiple names because I regenerate regularly, but most of the time it's called Random Entertainment Channel. And random because we'll discuss everything that involves entertainment, including movies and series, books and music. Random because we'll broadcast non-fixed times, actually many different times. The Doctor is also traveling to the past, present, and future. And in this world, there are different time zones. So I to meet much people as possible. And to serve people, as much people as possible, I do live streams on many different times. So you need to subscribe to this channel to know what time the broadcast is. So random also because we have no guests or different guests. It depends on what you join me in live stream or panel. If you want to join me in live stream, feel to contact me via YouTube. You can put a comment on one of the videos and can meet me on Discord server and we look what is possible. And also it's possible if I'm in for your channel, I'm available to contribute to your channel for a live stream or panel to talk about the things you're interested in, my friends. So in a summary, you are invited to talk in the live stream. And you can feel free to invite me for your channel in a panel. Yes, Discord server is called Random Entertainment Channel. Tag Doctor Who on this board, and you can find me very quick because I can bump the server very quickly. So cheers, mate. Have lots of fun. This is your host, Enigmatic Joker in mystery. So, yeah, hello. I was not just about finishing the live stream, but a quick hello. Perfect. So, and I hope to meet you, and looking forward to meet you next time. For now, this is Enigmatic Joker. Have a nice day. Have a nice weekend. And for now, bye bye. Bye bye.